OFAC's taken a number of actions over the past couple of years where it's actually included Bitcoin addresses and other cryptocurrency addresses belonging to SDNs as a way of helping businesses identify potential transactions with those entities. So, I mean, Lawrence, could you explain a little bit more about that? What is the significance of OFAC listing addresses, not just of Russian-based actors, but of sanctioned actors in this way? And what are OFAC's compliance expectations of U.S. person when it comes to leveraging this information as part of their compliance operations?
Yeah, David, that's a great question because it sort of gets at the broader purpose as to why we take these actions in the first place, right? To raise the compliance bar across the industry. So if you look at the recent action against Guarantech, for example, that action really builds upon other recent sanctions actions against other virtual currency exchanges like SUEX and ChatX that we took late last year. And what these cases show is that when exchanges like these disregard their AML, CFT, or sanctions obligations, they allow their systems to be abused by illicit actors, right? And that can undermine U.S. foreign policy and national security interests. So the OFAC takes these actions not just to disrupt a particular actor or illicit activities, which of course is important in its own right, but more broadly, they shine a light on how important it is for the virtual currency industry, both in the U.S. and abroad, to implement effective AML, CFT, and sanctions controls, and what can happen if they do that. So there's a few things that I think could be helpful for firms to do once we do that. First, as a baseline, virtual currency firms should employ tools to identify and block these addresses. That's sort of like the baseline step that can be helpful for firms to take, right? But going a layer deeper, that information, the virtual currency addresses that we identify, can be helpful for firms in identifying other addresses that we may not have listed, but could also pose sanctions risk, right? So if you have a listed address that shares a wallet with an unlisted address, you might want to look at that unlisted address to assess whether that also poses sanctions risk, because that could be indicative of a blocked person also having an interest in those transactions. So that's an example of how you can use that information to better inform your risk assessment and then implement controls.